All right, the good old days continue for LSU women's basketball, and I'm here with Patrick Wright, who has called the games on the radio for how many years, Patrick?
34.
34 years.
34.
So next year will be the 35th anniversary, and I don't want to do a rerun of our first Jacques Talk, but you told me in the first one that it was you and Victor Howe way back when. You pleaded with the late, great Sue Gunner, can we come along? You used to ride the bus with the team. And the stands might have looked a little bit like this sometimes back then.
Yeah, there's not
Empty.
many people, yeah.
So today as we're sitting here, LSU just beat Arkansas on a Sunday afternoon where it's still pretty frigid outside here in Baton Rouge, but almost 13,000 paid here today, and LSU really thumped Arkansas. And LSU right now, as the South Carolina game approaches Thursday, starting to get their feet underneath them and starting to, you know, you ever get on a treadmill, you start out like at 5 miles an hour, you move up to 6, 7, 8, maybe not you.
No. But I've heard that people do that. I've heard anecdotes. I have not been a participant, though.
But LSU gaining speed, Patrick.
Yes, they are. It is, you know, the Auburn game is now, it's coming into focus a little bit. That sometimes, and I want to take nothing away from Auburn, but in fact, they played their absolute hardest, their best for 40 minutes, but then they turned around and lost to Vanderbilt the next game. And they beat Alabama today, but LSU came out and just was flat. They didn't get anything going offensively. So in the moment you worry, okay, is this a trend? Is this going to be a problem? Then you go to Alabama. First half was a little uneven, but the second half was great. So then coming home, you're like, all right, can we pick up where we left off against Alabama in the second half, where you know we won by 20 points or more in the second half? And the answer was yes. Out here, 18-0 to start the game against Arkansas. Got the crowd going. Everybody was involved. Everybody was scoring. In the 18-0 run, the only player that didn't score was Angel Reese. Everybody else was scoring. She would score later, but it looked like it was supposed to look in this game against Arkansas. And now, to me, as you look back, the Arkansas game, the Auburn game, again, no offense to Auburn, but it's starting to look more like a fluke. That it was just one of those weird days where weird things happened, and hopefully that was the outlier.
Right.
And at the moment, it looks like it is. So we'll see how the rest of it goes. But right. LSU learned from the loss, got better, have played much better the last two games, and are in a good spot right now.
And Patrick, today, for example, as LSU beats Arkansas 99-68, you look at the box score, Angel Reese, 16 points, 17 rebounds. Anissa Morrow, who, where is LSU right now without Anissa Morrow? 14 points, 8 rebounds. Flau'jae Johnson, 13 points. And then you have Haley Van Lith, looking like Louisville Van Lith, 20 points. And Michaela Williams, 21 points. So all 5 starters scoring in double digits.
Well, and you know what Coach talked with me about after the game is what they've really got into a good substitution pattern now, that when the first sub off the bench is last year Poa, and she's been keeping Poa and Van Lith in the game together, allowing Haley to slide to her more natural off-guard position, and it's worked. You know, it's you know, when she's at the point, she's focused a little bit more on the passing. When she's the off-guard, she's focused a little bit more using her scoring ability, and she was able to score the points, and she still had, 5 assists today. So Coach told us going in, it's going to take a little while. The kid's learning a new position, but I think it's just continuing to get better and better and better. We still have half a season left, so it feels to me like they're starting to get a good grip on what they're trying to do.
Well, and you can't look behind you, but you also say to yourself, Samaya Smith, that they had her, Kateri Poole's no longer on the team. We've covered teams here at LSU on the men's and the women's side who only played 7 players or so that went very far. John Brady's 2016, I think they only played 7 guys or something like that. So the Arkansas head coach, who, by the way, the Arkansas postgame press conference, in my opinion, one of the more entertaining press conferences. He's really good. He is.
He's Coach Neighbors. He had good things to say about us last year. I know he complimented our student section last year, although it sounded like today there might have been a little bit of something, but they had to get warned. But he will tell you how it is, and that is what I like. Like, he is an interesting guy, and he'll give you, he'll compliment the other team and kind of tell you what his team did wrong altogether, and it's refreshing. It is refreshing.
Well, today he complimented the Tiger Girls. He said they killed it on Smooth Criminal. He caught that. national championship Tiger girls.
He was right. He was right.
Absolutely. Everyone standing ovation for that. But he was asked, can LSU be better this year than they were last year? And he says they have the potential to be better than they were last year. And so as you take a look at this team right now, Alexis Morris is a huge loss. There's no getting around that. She was put the ball in her hands late in the game. She would either dish or she would score or she would make free throws on that national championship run.
And her defense, too.
And her defense, yeah. And the attitude and the grit.
Yeah.
And LaDeja didn't talk a whole lot in front of these microphones, but man, she was so steady. So she's off the team, no longer with us on this team. And then Jasmine Carson obviously played the game of her life in the national championship. So those are 3 big losses on the team last year. But then you sign who you sign, and then a lot of people just copying, pasting LSU as the national champion. And obviously it's going to be very difficult to do that. But like we said, if they are getting better every game and the draw is right, we'll see if they can do it again.
You know, the thing to kind of go back, though, you talked about not having Samaya, not having Kateri. You basically lost your best or most experienced bench player from the front court and your most experienced best bench player from the back court. You still have enough talent to get through, but what scares you is that injury, you know, and that, you know, we saw a TCU team a couple of weeks ago had to forfeit a couple of games because they didn't have enough players.
Yeah.
And you hope, because the injury bug really hit them in a hard way. So you're every time somebody falls on the floor now or pulls up a little gimpy, you hold your breath a little deeper. That being said, all things being equal, it would have been silly to think that you could plug in the new additions, Morrow, Van Lith especially, and then you take away Alexis Morris, LaDeja Williams, to think that you could just roll them out and here we go.
Yeah.
We saw that in the Colorado game. Colorado coach told anybody who would listen, hey, Colorado's got their whole team back from last year. They went to the Sweet 16. They're going to be a tough matchup today. And they were, as it turned out. And Colorado turned out to be a great team. I think if LSU and Colorado played tomorrow, I think it would be a lot closer game because I think LSU is in a much better place than they were. And isn't that the point, is to get better as you go along? And I think that's the trend that LSU is on. They're figuring each other out. You don't see as many of the turnovers where you throw it to one place, but the players, like, they're all starting to gel together, and it's a good feeling. I've seen enough of these. I can see, I have a good feel that this is starting to look like how it's supposed to look.
Yeah, and college basketball season, I feel, perhaps more than any other season, gets interrupted. It's a little funky at the beginning, right? You start playing in November, then you got Christmas to navigate, then you got the New Year, then you got the final exams and all that. But once you get to about this point, it's like a sprinter doing a 100-yard dash. You know, I mean, there's no more. It's all basketball. They got school, obviously. It's starting the spring semester, but you're really getting into a rhythm now of games and action and these crowds. As big as they are right now, I mean, they're just going to get bigger and bigger starting with Thursday, obviously.
Well, I'm sure we'll dig into Thursday, but this figured to be a good crowd. A Sunday, it's our first weekend game in SEC play, if I'm computing this right. 4 o'clock, great time. Everybody's kind of come and gone from church, and a good opponent in Arkansas. And I'm glad we got through this because I didn't dare mention at any point this week the word South Carolina to coach because I know it's the next game.
Right.
But this was the little bump in the road you had to get past to get to that. It would have been a real downer going into the Carolina game if we hadn't played well and had lost today. But now that it's behind us, we can start talking about it and looking at what the matchup's going to be. And I think the fans too, by coming out today, they're like, hey, this is just, South Carolina game is important, but this game is just as important because if you don't win this one, then it really doesn't make Thursday important. Now it is very important.
Yeah. And so where is the line between just giving in to the hype that, ESPN's going to be here from 6 to 7. There will be millions of people watching this game. It's LSU, South Carolina. It's Dawn Staley, Kim Mulkey. It's all the stars in the game. And where is the line between that and, hey, the national champion won't be determined here on Thursday night?
Well, it's a fine line, but for fans and those of us not playing the game, it's huge. I told Coach on our post-game visit just a little while ago, this will be the most highly anticipated regular season game in LSU women's basketball history, especially in this building. Now, last year, the game at South Carolina was pretty highly anticipated. But with everything, you know, we haven't beaten them in 12 years. It's been 14 straight games, no wins against South Carolina. Our fans know that. Yeah, nothing's going to be determined. If South Carolina wins the game Thursday, they will have the inside track to the SEC championship. And it's kind of backwards if you think about it, because usually you're supposed to win the league championship first and then the national championship. Well, we're kind of doing it backwards. You got the national championship first, so it makes, but I still think that winning the SEC is a big deal. It's another banner you get to hang. It means you're the best in the league, and it means you beat South Carolina, which you haven't done in a while. So no, nothing's going to be determined here on Thursday night. But isn't it fun, though, just being a fan and soaking up? Like, it's going to be a fun week leading up to this. Just all the talk, all the back and forth. I'm sure if you dig around on the Twitters, you're going to it's going to be Team Mulkey and Team Staley and all the fun that's going to be. And I fully expect this place to be just rabid on Thursday night. I don't have any doubt about that. I think what I enjoyed about you were in South Carolina last year, right?
I did go to that game.
Okay.
Yes.
What I liked the most about that was when the LSU team came out, like right for the final time before the first half started, there were a lot of boos. You remember that? They were booed. I love that. It's great. Because we haven't seen that much in women's basketball. I don't know if everybody's polite because it's ladies, but you know, every once in a while when Tennessee used to come here, they'd get booed a little bit. Yeah. But I think that's what we need. We need some more just unbridled hatred, you know? We need
if you want to be treated the same, right?
Yeah.
If you want the sports to be the same.
So I think it's healthy. Yeah, hey, when South Carolina comes out that tunnel, I expect that they're going to get a loud greeting here. I think it's great. And I think it was great when we got it last year at their place, because it means that, hey, look, they take us seriously, and obviously we take them seriously too. But to be a rivalry, you got to beat them at some point. And that's kind of where we are now. We haven't beaten them in so long. It's been a little one-sided.
It's got to be the toughest ticket in this building. You and I remember the Pat Summitt, Pat Summitt, Pokey Chapman matchups here when I think they sold it out twice, 15,000.
Yeah, and we talked about it on our last visit. The first sellout was on a Sunday, a 4 o'clock game. On Sunday, I want to say it was Simone's freshman year,
LSU won one and they lost one.
Well, I think we lost. The first one we lost. It was the first sellout we lost. It was a 3-point game. At the end, we couldn't get off a 3-point shot that would have sent it to overtime. So that was the first one. There might have been one a little later that I think we did win, but we lost the first one.
Yeah. So now in an era, I don't even know if StubHub was kicking in 2005, 6, whatever. But I'm hearing the tickets are like even in the 100s. Or high, I should say, $700, $800 for tickets?
I think as of a couple days ago, and I haven't looked, but I think after the win today, that could change. I mean, the cheapest get-in was $50 that I saw a few days ago. Now, again, that could be, but that's again to sit up in the top of the building, $50.
Yeah.
Coach Gunner's smiling somewhere right now. You know, she hated that we had to turn people away that Tennessee game because we had sold out, but people are paying over. Yeah, the down low seats were in the 4 figures for sure, and that's she's proud somewhere of that.
Well, she would say once again, Patrick, I don't think we need that curtain.
No, we don't. We did not need it today. I think that thing is in the closet for good.
The curtain they used to drop, not just behind a goal, on an entire side.
Behind the yeah, you can go back and watch our other Jacques talk we talked about. It's behind the scores table across the way.
Yeah, like imagine going to the Tiger Stadium and just covering up, the east side or the west side because not enough people were showing up. That won't be a problem. So I have kind of watched South Carolina. I honestly can't tell you a whole lot. I mean, it just seems like every time I'd look up on TV in November, December, South Carolina was playing a highly ranked team. They played a murderous schedule from what I've seen. They've won all their games. Kim Mulkey's first year, I think the score was 66-60.
It was close. We had a double-figure lead in the second quarter, and then they got it close at halftime, and we were there until about the last minute of the game.
Yeah, could not rebound with them. That was the deal Mulkey said going into the game. We got to, try our best to rebound. We tried. We couldn't rebound with those guys. Last year, which I would think last year might have been the most highly anticipated game in LSU history. Maybe this one trumps it now, but both teams were undefeated going into that game. I think they were 1-2, right?
Yeah.
In the polls. Super Bowl Sunday, and LSU came out, and it was Ivan Drago to Apollo Creed there in the first 5. Was it 15-0?
It was like 16-2-ish, something. Yeah, it was quickly. And then we made a little run,
Alexis
cut it,
stabilized it.
But then it was just, we just didn't have enough. And I will say, as outmatched as it turned out that we were, we thought we would get another shot at them, and it never happened. We thought, okay, hey, we'll see them again in the SEC tournament, but we lost to Tennessee.
Right.
And then, hey, we'll see them in the Final Four, but Iowa had something to say about that. So we never did see them again to see how much we had improved, but I don't think there's any doubt that even in losing that game by 20 points, we learned a lot. Our team got better and saw a lot of the things that they needed to get better at, and so the loss, I think, was okay, but it was a 1-2 matchup and undefeated. South Carolina is a scary group right now. Everybody kind of wrote them off early because they lost basically 5 starters. 4 kids who were starters, 1 who had been a starter. And what they brought back was pretty good, but they brought it together so quickly. They went to France and played Notre Dame to start the year and beat them by 40. I mean, that was the attention getter. And then they, like you said, they just kept doing it. And they were able to make the transition so quickly from all that they lost. They got a couple of really good freshmen. They got a really good transfer named Pau Pau from Oregon who hits threes. They shoot outside shots now. They're 42% shooting threes to go with their inside. They may be better than they were last year.
Who's the 6'7" young lady that
Cardoso from Brazil. She was the one who actually did more damage than Aaliyah Boston did last year. She came off the bench, played 20 minutes, had something like 18 points, 13 rebounds in half a game almost.
I made the parallel last year's game. She was like a running back, like late in the game when the defense is tired, who's just pounding away. You couldn't get off the field. I mean, they just kept lobbing into her late in the game, and she just kept scoring and ones and everything. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes, and obviously the dynamic between the 2 coaches. Mulkey is a bit older than Dawn Staley is. Mulkey's got 4 national titles.
Yep.
And Staley's got 2. Mm-hmm. Mulkey's coached longer, to be fair, but it's funny. GOAT, greatest of all time. That gets just thrown around all the time now. A freshman hits a game-winning shot. You're the GOAT. So, but when it comes to these 2, you see it a lot of time. You see a lot of people calling Kim Mulkey the greatest of all time. You see a lot of people calling Dawn Staley the greatest of all time.
Well, Gino probably would like a word.
Yes.
But I see what you're saying.
And the late Pat Summitt.
Yeah.
So, but
the new GOAT. They're the new wave GOAT.
Those were the old GOATs.
Yes.
So there's no getting around the coaches in the game.
No, and what's fun is you now have 6 combined championships will be coaching here Thursday night. The last 2 champions will be coaching here on Thursday night. And they haven't, before league play, they really hadn't played each other except for maybe once or twice. So they really haven't gotten to match wits that many times. And definitely a couple of figures who everybody's got an opinion about one way or the other. And I think that's what makes it fun also.
Let's talk about Kim Mulkey. So you used to be calling games on this side. Now you're calling right by Kim Mulkey.
Yes.
She's literally walking in front of you during the games. I don't think this is hyperbole to say that Kim Mulkey is one of the greatest things to ever happen to Louisiana State University. I have never seen somebody, I mean, like not even Nick Saban maybe, that moves the needle with everybody. Men, women, young, old, people that like her, people that don't like her. You go to my Facebook post, I mean, my most highly watched, shared comment.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it really, as hysterical as it is to say this, it was almost breaking news. We're all lined up during the Final Four as the team's getting off the bus to get the video and tweet it out immediately. What is Kim Mulkey wearing tonight? Those kind of videos were going viral. Anyway.
No, it's, and it is not hyperbole. It is. What I like the most is, and you've been to a lot of the coaches shows at TJ Ribbs down through the years, football, basketball, whatever. When you go in, when Saban's there, Coach O is there, even when Coach Kelly's there, he's there talking. Everybody in the room is mingling. They're talking. I make a point. I take off my headset while she's talking. You can hear a pin drop in that place. The place is packed, and they are all hanging on every word. Like they're not conversing amongst themselves. Even the waiters and the waitresses are listening. and I might have told you this on our last visit, she reminds me of Skip Burtman. It's like whenever he starts talking, you want to listen because you know something interesting is going to come out.
Right.
That he's one of those people that's just worth listening to, and that's the same thing with Coach Mulkey. It's like whatever she's about to tell you, it's going to be from the heart, and it's probably going to be interesting, and it's probably going to be important, and everybody just listens, and it's amazing to me that it takes a special person, and she's just, what I think makes it more special is she literally is one of us. You know, Coach Burtman came from away, but she is as Louisiana as it gets, and I think a lot of people around here just associate with that. It's awesome. It's awesome. She's a good homegirl made good.
And she can talk about anything. It feels like football. I mean, there were so many people in the state of Alabama that were impressed. She's asked about Nick Saban's retirement. Yeah. And at one point she said he took a team that quite frankly overachieved and did a great job with them, and which is 100% correct, because you watched Alabama this year and there were times that they kind of struggled and wobbled around and found a way to win, but there they were. And there's Nick Saban. You know, he didn't go out on top technically, but it's pretty close. I mean, overtime loss to the eventual national champion there in the Final Four. So, but yeah, she's able to speak just about anything. She talked about football, the stuff she told me about Jaden Daniels, how he should win the Heisman.
Yeah. Oh, she will, and baseball. With Kramer and all, she knows a lot of baseball. She was a baseball player back in her youth, and follow. Yeah, you know, on any given day when I get ready to go do my pregame interview, I don't know what she's going to hit me with, because you usually catch her an hour before the game starts, and she's just getting to the arena, and we set up in the practice gym, and that's how most coaches are an hour before the game. Like they don't want to talk about they want to talk about anything. So I could probably make a good long list of random things that we've talked about that had nothing to do with the game at all, which were kind of fun. She had we've talked about things I can't remember. Her various ailments she had one time we had a nice little gathering. Said, Coach, we will not be talking about this on the air today, but just, you know, it's just.
Well, last week the weather was bad and you went and did the coach's show at her house. Now, they didn't have any Crown and Coke because Kim doesn't drink. Never had a drink, apparently. And
I searched high and low, I couldn't find any. So the only thing I might have seen were those national championship beer bottles that are out. But as she said, she wants everybody to go get one. You don't have to drink it, but just to have one to have, because how many times are you going to get one of those?
Right, just like a Coca-Cola, you know, maybe I try not to drink Coke, but the Coke Zero, it gets me. But, you know, a lot of times, you know, you have a Coca-Cola up on your shelf that you never drank, right, in the national championship. I remember the very first Skip Burtman ones, 1991, right?
I still have, I've got a six-pack, the 93 ones.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they had bottles for 91. 91 was the first championship, but I have a six-pack cardboard of the 93 baseball championship Coke bottles.
You have 30-year-old Cokes somewhere.
Every once in a while I'm tempted to open it up just to see what would happen, but I'm afraid. I didn't do
like motor oil when you pour it out there.
I didn't do great in science. I was more of a math guy, so I don't know. I'm just going to leave those sealed.
Mulkey. Okay, women's basketball is not a revenue-producing sport. It loses money. Football is always king and everything. Football pays for almost everything around here, close to it. But she is similar to Saban in terms of when she came here, I'm sure she kind of had to make some people uncomfortable and make some changes. And I think that there's a plaque, I think it's on Verge's desk, it says, but that's the way we've always done it. It's got the Ghostbusters slash through it, you know, like but change, you know, change is good. And so every single detail is important, like Saban. And she's got a memory of an elephant. I covered a game that she did at UL Lafayette her first year. And I asked her a question, and then she referenced it like the other day. Remember you asked me about blah, blah, blah. So
let me tell you what I remember about that game real quick. We played ULL down at their place, and that it was getting toward, and I was sitting, we were broadcasting the Cajun Dome right next to the bench, and the score, with about a minute to go in the first quarter, the score was like 6-5. It was an ugly game, and Coach turned around to all the LSU fans like, I'm sorry, y'all paid money to come see this. And I happened, and it was funny. It was a funny moment. Everybody kind of laughed, and then the game got better. But she's it shows you how self-aware she is. She's like, this isn't great, and all you nice people came and spent money to see this. Right. Haven't had many of those lately, though.
Well, the Miami, she made a national apology. It was at the end of the third quarter in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four.
Yeah.
She basically said, it's a terrible game to watch. This is brutal. And what did else she score? 55 points to win? It was
oh, man, it was 45? Like 54, 42-ish.
As Will Wade would say, it was a tractor pull.
It was.
It was. The game was in the mud. But she is, I always go to her press conferences because LSU could be playing the University of Antarctica, and she may give a viral soundbite that night. It could be about the Beatles, could be about...
And you don't want to miss it. That's why you got to be there for all of them, because you might miss it.
That's right. Maybe that's, part of her genius too, That this will keep them coming to every game, right, to cover us. And,
when you sit back in one of these days in your memoirs and you think you covered Saban and Coach O and Kim Mulkey and Skip Bertman, I would challenge anybody, anywhere in any other market, to have a group like that they got to cover. Well, and I even
that's a chapter. These are human beings that literally there's nobody else like them.
No,
they are very unique.
I can't imagine anybody who's gotten to have the experiences that we've had with these coaches. There's nobody like them.
Yeah,
and they make your job a little easier because you don't have to dig for, okay, what am I going to use here? It's like, what am I not going to use?
Well, the way I kind of put it is, how much money could Kim Mulkey charge as a guest speaker, to go around the country and speak at whatever banquet, whatever athletic, Hall of Fame, or and I'm saying, well, I get to go for free. That's the way I kind of look at it. And so, just like Skip, Skip made a lot of money because he was such a great speaker, public speaker.
Yes, because you want to hear what they got to say.
Yeah,
because it's probably a good opinion of whatever it is.
All right, so as we wrap up here, is there any other things that we should talk about as LSU is getting ready to play South Carolina here? I wanted to get this shot with Patrick immediately after the Arkansas game to have 3 or 4 days for people to watch this before the game on Thursday night here, but we expect the most raucous, packed PMAC we've ever seen for a women's basketball game. There's some rain in the forecast this week. The game is played indoors, but hopefully that doesn't. I don't think it's going to stop anybody from getting in here this week. And student section, it'd be interesting. That's going to be back to the Shaquille O'Neal, Duke, Christian Laettner game, 1992.
I've had a couple people make that who were listening to our post game and texted me that same thing. I'm pretty sure I camped out on the ramp for tickets to that. That was when I was a student back in those days. I camped out to see Chris Jackson in '88 when I was a freshman, and then the LSU Duke game. Now I hope we get a better result because Laettner came in and LSU was never in the game. I think we ended up losing like 12 or 13, but it was never a contest. So we're hoping for a better result on Thursday because that one didn't have a happy ending for the home team.
I remember they had a noise stick back then, right? They had the noise stick.
Oh, they did, yeah.
And then the crowd would get loud and it would light up. It had like 10 bulbs on it. So if the crowd was lame, it would only go to 2.
Well, the crowd will be in it from before tip-off.
Yep.
And you hope, South Carolina was good. They literally today had the same game at Texas A&M that we had here against Arkansas. They got out to a huge early lead. They were up 30 at halftime and just kind of coasted to the win. They're scary right now, but the people who are going to walk in this building are going to do everything in their power to help pull the Tigers through. We've seen a lot of magic in this building down through the years. The unthinkable has happened in a good way for the home team. I think our kids are ready for the challenge. I know the fans are ready. It's a fun, a lot of times you say, hey, let's the game get here, but I'm going to enjoy the lead up this week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Let's close it out here as Patrick, after basketball, we'll start calling softball, which I think starts in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's getting close.
It's almost here. So you get to call the national championship in Dallas last year. Mm-hmm. So after years in the early 90s, I guess, and after that of making road trips and going to places that weren't always well attended, you could hear the sneakers and the coaches and all that stuff. Now you've moved into this new era. What was it like to have a national championship call?
it was the culmination of a lot of dreaming. You know, what I told people after they made a 10-year-old boy's dream come true. Because when I started following sports, when I was about 10, I started listening to everything on the radio, you name it, if it was NBA, MLB, LSU. And I always dreamed of being an LSU broadcaster who could call a national championship. It didn't matter what sport. It didn't matter. Just something LSU national championship. And that 10-year-old boy's dream came true. And that's why it was so emotional, because I've been here through all of it. And then I kind of wondered, what would it be like? Okay, are you going to be satisfied with one? And the answer is no. I think that it was fun. I feel like it would be a fun experience to have again. And it's good to know that with the coach and the players and the staff that we have in place, it's not an impossible dream anymore. We will go into every year, if things break right, if you get enough people who stay healthy and the team comes together, you're going to have a chance. And that's what's so great about it. So one is great. I didn't think I'd ever see it. And then now it's a reality. I'm greedy now. Yeah. That huge ring she gave us, I could see if I could fit some more of them on the fingers. That'd be kind of fun.
Well, that is I don't know if you call it negative, but that is the one thing about when you win it all, you do get greedy. I mean, you know, Sean Payton with the Saints won a Super Bowl, and they were right there to perhaps win a few more, and it didn't work out. And he just always talking about that natural narcotic of postseason ball and winning, and there's no feeling like it. And everything, you know, football's been chasing 2019 for several years now. You know, some things may not ever happen again the exact way they happened. You know, 2019 in football will probably never be duplicated. They can win another national title, but
well, and it's, you know, and think about football too. Now that we are just off of a national championship, all these other bowl games are pointless now. Like they're disappointments, because, you know, and the way this is going to shake out is, if you don't at least go to a Final Four, it's going to be a letdown, but it's not going to mean you had a bad year. You know, if we, let's just say this team makes it to the Elite Eight and they get beat, does it mean it was a failure? And the answer is no. But now it's the top or bust, and I think Coach would tell you that's how she wants it to be. But it's like that, like that in football. You know, when you've won a championship and then you're now playing in Tampa on a New Year's Day and there's nobody at the state. It's different for fans. Yeah. So but that means your programs are healthy. Baseball's like that now. That, you know, Coach Johnson's recreated the monster that Coach Burtman had. So those are programs that, hey, it's championship or bust. It's a lot of pressure, but it's a good place to be in, I think.
Well, and it shows you how quickly the expectations have gone, because in the previous 5 years or whatever, it's like, oh, we make the tournament, that's fine. Yeah. And they hadn't won a game in the tournament for, I think, 6-7 years. Yeah. And now it's like, you know, well, they got to go to the Final Four, right? Yeah. So.
And we zipped through all the new goals in the second season. You know, there was no build; it was a straight shot, straight up. Yeah. Yeah. So as Coach said, feeding the monster. She fed the monster a lot last year.
Well, if she never wins another game at LSU, she's already delivered. And then some. She has already done her job in 2.5 years. But at early 60s, you know, she can coach another 7-8 years, whatever, and maybe win another national title or two.
Or 5.
Or 5, yeah. Greed, right? I just came from Tuscaloosa, Patrick.
Yeah, my fantasy world involves a world where there's no Geno, no Dawn Staley, but, you know, you got those are another coach. There's no Iowa anymore.
But so when I covered the game the other night in Tuscaloosa, like the Wi-Fi password at the hotel was Dynasty 2020. And then I go to the arena and it's like Champions 2023, you know.
Well, Tuscaloosa's interesting that way.
Yeah, well, so it might be a little different now. Patrick Wright?
It was fun. Anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Catch him on 107.3 locally.
Hey, and actually, we're going to be on 98.1 as well. The 100,000 watt blowtorch, I think is what they call it, for the South Carolina game. So if you're not here, find us on one of the big radio stations we'll be on.
We are certainly looking forward to LSU and South Carolina. It's definitely got a football-like build-up going, as the Tigers and Gamecocks will be here in the PMAC. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you later.